scariest part. Okay. So let me get this pulled up here. All right. You guys can all see my lovely screen here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So I figured I would talk about storytelling because it's something that actually recently I got into a better groove about. When I first started coaching, everyone would be like, tell your story. I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't know what that means. I don't have a story. Like, I'm married. I have no kids. I'm super lame. I don't know what I'm supposed to talk about. And then I went to work and I came home and that was my life. So I've learned just with time, like your story and even my job, like everything just encompasses this business and you can find it literally anywhere in daily life. And so I've learned that those little things that may seem insignificant are part of your story. And there's other people out there, if you have a love for Disney or Dobermans or whatever it is, like those are going to find your people. And when you add your story to those little things, that's what's going to attract your people. Side note before I keep going, I also got schooled this week, really hardcore. So I just wanted to share this with you because I think sometimes too we are afraid of inviting people because you get in your head like, oh, they won't be interested in this. So you just kind of keep scrolling past. So one of the girlfriends in the fire department is much younger than me, probably about 12 years younger than me, almost. And so she's 21, nearly 21, but she was watching my stories for a while and I kept seeing her watching, but I was like, she's not interested in this. She's not interested in this. And so I kind of didn't reach out to her. And then I started a conversation with her completely at random about something else related from my stories, but still never invited her. So on Saturday, we're of course hanging out at the fire hall dinner. And she's like, you need to tell me what you're doing. I had never asked her. She literally signed up yesterday. And I didn't ask her for the past, I don't know, month and a half or 2 months that we've been friends on Facebook. Didn't invite her. So my point is just don't assume that people are not interested. Regardless of if they're 21 and probably, in that stage of life where you're like, they can't jive with what I do. Don't be afraid because that schooled me and I will never make that mistake again. That was just a side note. So let me go ahead and talk about storytelling. So why do we want to tell a story? Kind of like I said in the beginning, they add value and people, yes, they'll buy our products eventually, but they're more or less buying what the products and services have done for you and what they see that it can do for them in your eyes. So telling those little things about being uncomfortable, like hiding in the closet and changing my clothes because I didn't want to change in front of my husband. Something that significant can resonate with someone else because you just didn't feel that confidence in your body at that time. So those little things that you think, oh, no one's going to care about that is really what people care. And they're going to buy your emotion and what that's done for you when it hits home with them. So also to that point, the big thing from the Super Bowl was the Google story or the Google ad. I don't use the little Google thing, but I will remember it forever now because it added that story about him wanting to remember his wife and remembering the little things and remind me of this and show me this picture. So it wasn't even about them saying, use Google Assistant or whatever it's called. It wasn't about that at all. It was about this guy that lost his wife and wanted to remember everything about their life together. So if you have a chance, look that up because they did a really good job of telling the story. And also our local, recently my local cable, Comcast, they did a similar thing where they showed, I think it was an autistic boy and his mom in their home, and they were something, I forget exactly what happened. I caught like the tail end of it, but they're in their house and it's basically going through their lives, and you don't really see anything, but you see a guy show up and then he fixes something and the kid's like really excited. And here it was because the Xfinity or Comcast like sent this guy to their house, and like it told the story of the family instead of just being about buying the cable and the internet or whatever. I'm seeing it a lot more places, and I think once you start getting an idea of it, you see it more and more. So what makes a good story? If you move your faces out of there we go. Okay, they contain 4 elements. Identifiable characters. Typically, those identifiable characters are you, your loved ones, your family, your team, something like that. They author emotion. So with that, you're like basically tying on someone's heartstrings when you're getting that emotional side of it. Maybe you're funny, sarcastic, you're making them laugh. There's some emotion that is happening in that story. And then a moment happens in a moment. So you're telling this story, but it seems like it's like, it could have been a 10-year difference or something, but you're making it happen very quickly in a short amount of time and having specific details. So I remember, like if I told you that I wore purple shoes or something like that, like, it was 2:00 in the afternoon on a rainy Sunday, which happens all the time here in Pittsburgh. And I was telling you like a specific time, and then like if I go on my story, you're gonna remember that it was like 2:00 on a Sunday afternoon later. So getting very specific about a detail and things like that. Kendra Hall, or not Kendra Hall. Is that who wrote the Stories That Stick? Now I'm like.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember she told this story about like what song she was listening to when she met her husband or something like that. Like something very specific that in her story of how she met her husband. So we went over this, the characters, typically you, your family, your team, and include those nuances, those little things that make you you. So I'm a Doberman mom. I love the color blue. I have a sheet on my bed that has a hole in it because my dog chewed it. Like anything that like makes you relatable to someone else. I can't tell you like how many times in the day, which I actually need to do a better job of translating that how I am at work a little bit onto my social media too. Like I talk about my dogs every single day, and every single day anyone that has a dog, they know about the holy sheet because they've had like 7 too. Like it's something that you connect to someone, and then it brings them back to your page. Like, she's so funny. I love her dog too. Anything. I talk about my dogs a lot, which I don't do on social media. Using the real everyday emotion, and it doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to have this like heartfelt story. It doesn't have to be like talking about sadness all the time or anything. Like, it can be just anything, but it's that real everyday emotion that you go through. Like, if yesterday you had a good day and you were happy, like talk about that. If you just felt like a little off all day, like, ask people about that. Is anybody else feeling like a little weird today? Like, what happened? What's going on? Like, is the earth spinning on its axis or something funny? We always talk about full moon days in healthcare. So like, is it a full moon day for anybody else? Like, everything's been like kind of twilight zone for me here. Anything like that, really. And then I keep having to move you guys. Getting specific. So the time, the place, the insignificant details, they matter. So if you were humming your favorite tune to your favorite song on that cool October morning, it was a Thursday, whatever you say, like get very specific to the details. That's what's going to help someone remember, and it'll spark their memory too. So if they kind of hear them, maybe they think about something later and it reminds them, and be like, what girl on Instagram said something about that? That reminds me of her. Or if you talk about something that you like, I've had people that I don't really know who have like followed my page or liked it or commented, and we chatted a little bit. They've tagged me in things on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, like they knew that I would like that. That's kind of cool. And I don't really know them personally. They just picked up on what I like from my page, which is kind of neat. And then don't assume that every story has to be about your business. And then don't fall into the big trap that we usually do in the beginning of our businesses of thinking that your story isn't big enough. So, I think a lot of us sometimes, especially being in the Dream Team organization and all that's done for some people, how they have they stay home and they have all of these things. And that was me when I first started. I fell into the trap of thinking that I either had to like make this business my full-time job, or that was it. Like those were the only two options: quit your job, go home, coach full-time, or like you're not really a coach. And that was what I thought. And that's not the case at all. I've actually resonated with a lot of people because my story, even though it's very small, like I wanted to lose weight and be healthy, especially before I have a baby. I've had, I think it's 5, I've counted 5 challengers because of that little piece of my story that I was like, I'm trying to get healthy pre-baby. 5 of my challengers joined me. 5 of them have had a baby since joining me. So it was that small little thing that drew them in that may not have seemed that insignificant if I didn't talk about it. I may not have attracted them. So just being true to yourself, I mean, really, and not getting discouraged, because not every fish in the sea is like for you. You probably, are you married, Kelly? Yes. Okay.
Sorry, my son just.
That's good. So, like, you had to date a lot of people until you found your significant other. It's like dating. Like, not every person, not every follower on Instagram is your people. So you kind of have to date them and be like, I think we could be friends, or you're like, that's not my person. Like, that's okay. So you're not for everybody, and everybody's not for you. And getting that in your head, it's a hard one to swallow, because we've all done it. We all get caught up in like, oh my gosh, like, should I tell that part of my story? Should I not? It's really not that important. For me, like when I actually probably like this time last year, my coaching business was paying for my groceries every week, paying for my nails, paying for my product, like very small things that I'm like, that's not important. But who doesn't like to be pampered and not have to paint their own nails? Like every woman almost out there. Like, that's great. Like, you have to just like sit back, relax, and like not think for an hour while someone paints your nails. It's great. And so there's just those little things that, people that, or the groceries even, like it's so stressful for some people not being able to just go to the store and buy whatever you want for the groceries because the budget's tight or whatnot. So being able to just do that is relating to people. And then do's. Oh, where'd that random spot come from? That's supposed to be a dot. But use the whole space. Fill up your words. Like, don't try to cut your story short. Sometimes you don't have a lot to say. That's fine. Or sometimes you just want to like bring someone in and ask them a question or get their input on something. That doesn't have to be. But when you're really telling like a story, like especially transformation posts, that's the big one. And the mental transformation is even bigger than just the physical. But when you're telling that story, like talking about who you were how it's changed you and like where you are now, like take that space and tell your story. And then some of the elements of a story. So kind of what I was saying, you had your normal before. So my normal was hiding in the closet, not feeling comfortable in my skin, not wanting to change in front of my husband. And then I said, yes, that's the explosion. That was my little explosion right there. So that's when the explosion happened. When I joined the community, when I started taking care of myself, gaining my confidence, and now my new normal is I feel a lot more comfortable in my skin. Weight is, or, you know, the scale is just a number. It's how I feel every single day. When I wake up, when I feel strong, things like that, is how I feel now. So talking about how it used to feel, what changed you? What was it that changed that explosion? And then the new normal, which is who you are now or who you've become since that explosion. And then I just wanted to throw a little recommendation out there because reading, actually I might reread it again because I think it was that good. I actually listened to the audio version of Kendra Hall, The Stories That Stick. It's really good. She just really, and it could be for anybody. I mean, any business, even my optometry business. It's almost like getting those testimonials. When you tell a story of how something's changed for someone, you're like, wow. So I always try to relate because it just seems like my life just overlaps in all of those. So today I had a patient who, I mean, it's just miserable. Like eyes are dry, horrible, all of those things. Like she just feels terrible. And we have this new piece of equipment. Why would I like not tell a story of like, yeah, you know, so-and-so did this. And she told me just how great, I obviously didn't say their name, but I just said a patient had this done because I can't break HIPAA, but a patient had this done. And I just saw her, you know, a few weeks ago. She's doing fantastic. She said it was the best decision of her life. That would just be the same thing. Like I'm telling someone else's story. I'm not trying to sell her. I'm just giving her my opinion, things like that. But when you tell those stories, people are more apt to kind of, again, grab a hold of that because then they're like, yeah, that's how I feel. Like I feel miserable. What's the solution? Like, what do I need to do? And that's kind of where she was. She was like, what do I need to do this? Like, sign me up yesterday. So just relating that and how even like, I don't know if anybody wears glasses, but I'm trying to think of like another example that would be relatable. So a good story for selling non-glare would be, you know, you're driving at night and you have your kids in the car or something like that, and you don't see a deer because it's so much glare. I mean, you're not selling the non-glare, but you give that, this is what it was like before. Now someone gets non-glare in their glasses, now they can see better at night. It's that same thing. Like you're just telling that story of how the explosion was getting the new glasses and now you can see. And now your kids are safe, things like that. So kind of just utilizing that. She does a really good job of explaining stories. And I think if you follow her, I mean, not every single one of her posts talks or discusses a story. There's some life thrown in there too, but she's also is at that point in her business where she can talk about more than that. But following her, reading her her little like tactics is really, really helpful. So I really do recommend that. And then there was, I want to say, a team call that she did with the Dynasty at some point too, or maybe with Melanie. I can't remember. It's been a while, like maybe November or so. And I got some free stuff sent in the mail. Since I was a pre-launch supporter. And there was something else that she she recommended. And I thought I had it written down. I think I left it in my other little notebook downstairs. But if I find it, I can always let you know. I hope that was helpful to kind of go through how to tell your story, not being afraid to tell your story. If you have anything else to add, let me know.
I think you did a great job.
Oh, I was going to say one last thing too, which sometimes I find myself doing, is talking at people instead of to people, because we all know, like, our lives freaking change. Like, no matter what you can say, like, our lives have changed, whether it's a physical transformation, mental transformation, financial transformation, whatever. When we said yes to this, and I think we get so excited because literally we want to change everybody's life. Like, we do. And that's the thing, but sometimes it's like, do this, and like, instead of like meeting those people where they are. And Amber has done a good job of helping me as well with like getting really good at like the interview questions, and then that way when you do follow up with those people, it's huge because they pour their heart out to you, and then they ghost you and you're like, wait, like, what's happening? Which we all get apprehensive, we all get scared. It's natural. But when you follow up with them, then it's a great, I don't want to say key or tool. Not that you want to throw it back in their face, but you want to be like, listen, like, all of these things that you tell me, I understand. And I want to help you. Like, I want you to overcome whatever you're battling. I want to help you lose the weight, gain confidence. I've been in your shoes. And that's just something that it's been helpful when talking to Amber, with having your conversations and things like that. Because as soon as someone wants more information, I know I try to take a step back now because I get so excited. I'm like, yes, like, they want this. This is great. And then I don't want to like attack them. So I've been trying to take a step back and be like, absolutely, like, let me help you, but let's chat a little bit first, and then I can help you with recommendations. But you get so excited when someone's like, yeah, what are you doing? And especially people that you don't know, like for me at least anyway, like my colder market on Instagram, it's not even like my sort of warm market people. Like the cold market, that's when I get really excited because I'm like, they're watching, they want more info, like, this is great, like, I'm making a bigger impact than I thought, and you just get so excited. But also just like taking that step back, and also not being afraid to ask somebody like what's brought them to you. So I don't do a great job at like insights on Instagram and things like that, and what all the posts are that people are following. So whenever I start this conversation, you know, what brought you there? A lot of the time it's just students searching, like optometry students searching doctors and things like that to find. But
interesting.
They actually probably would like more business tips, which I don't know that I have a lot of, or maybe like how to get through school. But I had a girl, actually, I think we've been talking for about a week and a half or so. And so that's when I asked her, like, well, what brought you? And she was like, I just really think that what you do can help me. Like, I'm struggling in school, I'm stressed, and you had this like such a positive message, like, tell me more. Definitely want like more information, all of that. Because she's obviously a little anxious. School is not always fun. So I thought that was kind of cool. So it was like our world kind of meshed again. A lot of people follow me because my dogs are silly, which I don't showcase them enough either. But if you have dogs, you know how hard that is to do. Yeah, I just asking people too. I think that's helpful. Because then you can know, like, make a mental note of, oh, this person really, or is a firefighter wife. and that's what connected me. Maybe I need to talk about that more. This person's trying to have a baby. That's what drew them in, like whatever it might be. Then you can just talk about more and add to that story too. And don't be afraid to kind of recycle your story. It's part of you. I haven't delved completely 100% into the Make Chic Planner, but it's in the Make Chic Planner, like your 4 hashtags method. So finding those 4 parts of your story and really that's what people are drawn to as well. So don't be afraid, because I think we think we're being redundant, but really, I don't know how exactly Instagram works, but everyone we know on Facebook, like not everyone sees your post every single time, like in their news. So even if you said the same thing last week that you said this week, it may hit someone different, or it may be that final time, like in the business when you hear trainings and things like that. I feel like myself, like you have to hear it 103 times before you're like, oh, like I've always heard, like this week I had that aha moment with the like rooting for someone. Like, not that I've not wanted people to succeed, but it just really, I had that moment where it was like, I truly am rooting for her. Like, I can envision when she gets to her goal, like how it's going to make me feel and how it's going to make her feel. And like, just really genuinely wanting someone to like win without anything. It just kind of like this feeling came over me. And I've heard 100 times, and you do truly feel that way for people. It was just in that moment where you were like, yes, like light bulb moment went off, and you're like, I get it now. Like, you've always said it, but you didn't really grasp it, if that makes sense. So I think it's the same thing with when we post. Like, I've had a few times where I've said the same thing, and you just then finally get that person that was like, I needed to hear that today. And you're like, I did my job. Great. Like, and it could have been, it was just how you worded it, anything. It's just really, really cool. So I am going to stop recording, possibly. Maybe.